What is crack, everyone? Welcome back to another Barney Talks Fighting video. 2023 is just over, and for the UFC, what a brilliant year it was. We had some great cards, some great nights out watching it here. Obviously I'm in the UK, so usually have to stay up to watch it, and had some brilliant nights with my mates. Some great knockouts, some great upsets. What a year for the UFC. Obviously the biggest upset of all, Israel Adesanya losing his middleweight title to Sean Strickland. But we also had title reigns which were very dominant throughout the year as well. We had Islam Makhachev, we had Volkanovski, and we had Leon Edwards, who all started the year as champ and ended the year as champ. What I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to predict the champions for the end of 2024 in all of the men's weight classes. So I'm going to start with flyweight, and I'm going to make my way up to heavyweight. And I'm going to predict who I think the champion will be at the end of 2024. So stick around, and I hope you enjoy the video. So we're going to start off with the flyweight division. This one might raise a few eyebrows. He's probably not the most popular pick out there, but I went for the champion at the end of 2024, the Muhammad Mokaev. He was pretty inactive last year because of a couple of injuries. Obviously there was the nasty knee bar, which we seen, which he didn't tap to and come on to win that fight. So that kept him out for a good while, but we did see him sort of towards the end of last year, and he put in a good performance. Again, he was nearly submitted, but again he came back to get the win in the third round, if my memory serves me right. I think it was the third round. He got the rear naked choke. I'll have to double check that one, but I think it was. So he's obviously scheduled. It was the first fight scheduled for the Saudi Arabia card, which is happening in March. So he's been scheduled to fight Perez. So Perez is obviously a veteran of the flyweight division. He has been pretty inactive. He's had massive cancellations. I was on Tapology, and I was looking at the amount of cancellations he's had, and honestly, it's frightening. I don't know if all the fights were actually made. There's no way all them fights were actually made and it fell through that many times. But just go on and take a wee look at it. I'll maybe show it on the screen just to give you a laugh at the amount of cancellations he's had. But because of his inactivity and Muhammad Mokaev's grit and determination, I don't see what Perez will be able to do to him. I think Muhammad Mokaev will take him down pretty comfortably and probably submitting, I would say, round 1 or round 2. Following on from that, I think there will maybe be a fight against Manel Kape in the summer. Kape's obviously fighting Matheus Nicolai on the Walker and Anklev undercard. Kape has looked good. He looked very good in his last fight, and he's making a lot of noise for himself. He obviously made the slur, which went viral. He had beef with Adesanya. He's got the beef with Kai Kara France. So he is making a lot of noise for himself, and I think him and Muhammad Mokaev in the summer would make a great fight. This year prediction is based on Muhammad Mokaev being very active, a lot more active than last year. He had hopes to be the youngest UFC champion, and he was looking good whenever he came into the UFC. They meet that goal. Obviously John Jones was 23. Muhammad Mokaev is now 23, and he's possibly 2 or 3 fights away. We can put that down to injuries and inactivity in general. If he was hoping to be UFC champion, he was going to have to fight a lot more often than what he has been. So I think he'll beat Perez, Saudi Arabia. Come the summer, if he's active enough, he'll beat Kape, and then I think he could get Pantoja near the end of the year. That would be the ideal scenario for Muhammad Mokaev. Will it work out that way? I'm not sure. I hope it works out this way. I've got a soft spot for Muhammad Mokaev. I really like him. I think he's one of these guys that looks really unsubmittable so far. You know, people's got him in positions where usually the fight is over, no questions asked, but he's managed to get out of it, work through it, and get the win. I think he'll be a hard man to put away for sure. Another honourable mention in the flyweight category is Almir Albazi. He is fighting in February against Moreno. That'll be a brilliant fight. It kind of throws a bit of a spanner in the works for this division in terms of if they're looking to push it Manel, Kape, Mokaev, and then you've also got Pantoja as champ. Almir Albazi looks as good as every one of these so far. I think he's maybe 10-0, 9-0, something like that. there's also fights there to be had. Maybe he'll get a match up with Cap or Mikhaev along the way. But I think this flyweight division, for a change, it's getting quite exciting. There is quite a lot of contenders coming up, as opposed to the last few years has just been dominated by Moreno and Figueiredo. I think those days are done. I fancy Almir Albazi to beat Moreno, and obviously Figueiredo has moved up to the bantamweight division. So it's exciting times for the flyweight division. There was talk before of them scrapping it, and I'm really glad they haven't. You know, I think the division itself, the fights are so exciting. It's like watching a fight and fast forward. So quick, the scrambles are unbelievably fast, real quick pace fighting. We don't see as many knockouts as what we would in the heavier weights, obviously, but it always makes for a great fight. And I think the last title fight between Pantoja and Brandon Royval was quality as well. It was one of the fights of the night on UFC 296. So we'll move on to the next one. So moving up a weight class to the bantamweight division, my prediction is Murad Dvalishvili will be the champion come the end of 2024. He's scheduled to fight Henry Cejudo on UFC 298 in February. I think he'll make this look easy enough. I think it's a good matchup for him. Cejudo didn't look great last time out. So I think Murad will make light work of Cejudo on 298. That's my early prediction. I'll go into it more in another video, but for now, that's my early prediction. Then obviously the current champion O'Malley, he's fighting Marlon Vera in 299. To be honest, I think Murad should be fighting O'Malley now. I think it should be either on 298 or 299. I don't think Murad should be fighting Cejudo, and I don't think O'Malley should be fighting Vera. The only reason O'Malley's fighting Vera is because he called for it. There was obviously the foot injury, and I get O'Malley wants to make up for the loss, which he says he doesn't have anyway. But I get he wants to make up for that. But Marlon Vera really hasn't done enough to warrant this title shot, in my opinion anyway. I think the only reason he's getting it, again, as I said, is because O'Malley has called for it. It's a better style up for O'Malley than what Murad is, and that's for sure. So I think O'Malley beats Vera and Murad beats Cejudo, so that leaves us maybe summertime. At the end of summer, you could have Murad fighting O'Malley then for the title. I think that there's a brilliant fight. It will sell very, very well. Obviously, you had Sterling, who O'Malley beat, who is best friends and teammates with Murad, so there's a great storyline there. I think Sterling maybe moved up a weight division to make way for Murad too. There was no way they wanted to fight each other, and Dana doesn't like you ducking title fights, whether it's against your friend or not. So it was easier for Sterling to move up. He was a massive bantamweight anyway, so it made more sense for him to move up to featherweight. But we'll touch on him in a wee minute. And then the contenders for this weight class, it's not stacked with contenders. I think you've got Figueiredo obviously moving up from flyweight. Figueiredo looked really, really good against Rob Font in his last match. He looked brilliant. He looked a lot more durable and a lot bigger and a lot fuller, and the weight and not having to cut as much weight, it looked like it paid its dividends for him. He looked brilliant against Rob Font. And another man who's been making a lot of noise in this division is Corey Sandhagen as well. He's obviously, I think he's won 3 on the back now. Some great performances. He's had a decision, he's had a couple of finishes, and he's looked really, really, really good. So I think the contender fight to make in this division is Figueiredo against Sandhagen. It would be a nice wee one for UFC 300. I think it makes sense. I don't think any of them has any fights lined up so far, so it would not surprise me if this is a fight that we see made. Moving on to the next weight class, which is the featherweight division. So I have to back Alexander the Great Volkanovski, who remained champion till the end of 2024. Volkanovski won the belt in December 2019 in a unanimous decision against Max Holloway, and he has reigned ever since. I think that is absolutely mental. So he reigned for the whole year of 2020. He reigned for the whole year of 2021, 2022, and 2023 just passed. Can he make it 5 years if he reigns for the whole of 2024? What an achievement, and especially in this day and age where the level of fighting is getting so high, to reign for that long would be an unbelievable achievement. Why do I think he'll reign in this division for the whole year? It's a pretty big ask. He had a tough year last year, coming off 2 losses against Islam Makhachev. his stock didn't drop much from them losses. Obviously, he was stepping up a weight class. The first fight was very, very tight. A lot of people think Volkanovski won it. And the second fight, obviously, it went the way it did. He took the fight in short notice, a big, massive risk taking a fight like that. He gets dropped by the head kick in the first round. But he's stepping back down to featherweight, where he belongs, in my opinion. I think he could step up to lightweight again if it's not Islam Makhachev, but I don't really have any. I don't have a real desire to see that fight again. To be honest, I think if by some chance maybe Oliveira becomes a champion, which I don't think will happen, but say Oliveira becomes champion, or Justin Gaethje, or Arman, or a couple of the contenders at lightweight, I can see Volk stepping up again and giving them a real good fight. But anyway, we'll focus on the featherweight division. So he's obviously fighting Topuria in February. Nearly sure it's February. I think he'll beat Topuria. I think he'll beat him quite comfortably. We've seen Volk's wrestling against Islam. So picture this: Islam is considering stepping up to welterweight. Volkanovski is a featherweight. He stepped up to lightweight in the middle, and he out-wrestled one of the best Dagestani wrestlers there is in Islam Makhachev. He was able to out-wrestle him in that first fight quite comfortably. I wouldn't say comfortably, but he out-wrestled him a few times, managed to take him down, managed to stop the takedowns in the first fight. Imagine if Volkanovski is doing that to Islam Makhachev, who's going to step up to welterweight. Imagine what he'll do to Topuria. Topuria's got good hands, but I think on the ground, Volk's just going to be too strong at featherweight. He's going to be far, far too strong for him. I think Topuria has looked very, very good. He looks brutal. He's got knockout power. His wrestling has looked good. He showed good wrestling against Bryce Mitchell. That was such a dominant performance. But to be honest, I don't see what he can offer that Volk hasn't already came up against. He fought Max Holloway, who was, in my opinion and his own opinion, the best boxer in the UFC, and he's beat him 3 times. Topuria's striking to me isn't as good as Max Holloway. It's completely different to Max Holloway's, but it's not as good. So to me, Volkanovski beats Topuria. Maybe my early prediction, maybe 3rd, 4th round finish. And then something quite exciting which you can see happening at this weight class. This weight class is funny because the contenders within it, you've got Max Holloway and Arnold Allen, who was the contenders. Max Holloway beat Arnold Allen, which probably did warrant Max Holloway another title shot, but it would be his 4th. Is it fair giving someone 4 title shots when they haven't won any of them? Who knows? It might end up happening again, but who knows? This division isn't massively stacked, so that's why you've seen Topuria nearly fast-tracked. Topuria in other divisions with the calibre of the names he's beat, he probably wouldn't warrant a title shot just yet, maybe 1 or 2 fights away. So what I can see him doing in this division is I can see Sterling, Aljamain Sterling's obviously stepped up from bantamweight. I think he's going to beat Calvin Kattar on UFC 300, and then he'll be fast-tracked to a title shot. So it's going to be former bantamweight champion against against current featherweight champion Volkanovski, and that story sells itself, and I think that will be a great fight. It's a fight. UFC 300 is in April, so maybe at the end of summer, towards the latter end of the year, I would love to see Sterling against Volkanovski. Of course, I think Volkanovski will beat him. And outside of that, what other contenders are there in this division? There's not too many. You've got Allen and Holloway, as I said, who are always dangerous. But outside of them, there's not too many guys that's coming up in this division who has really warranted a title shot. So I think at some point we might have to see Holloway and Volkanovski again. Look, it's always a great fight. I'm not going to begrudge seeing it again, and I'm a big Holloway fan, so I will love to see it. But when we see these fights happening 3 and 4 times, it becomes quite frustrating, and it does show a lack of contenders. And I think it also shows the level that Volkanovski's at. He'll have lapped the division. There won't really be any more fights for him. I can maybe see him fighting at the end of 2025. I'm sure there will be some featherweight next year who will, come the end of the year, will have a good shout for a title fight. But looking at the rankings as per now, I don't really see who it's going to be. So, featherweight prediction, the champion will remain the champion, Alexander the Great Volkanovski. So moving on to the lightweight division, for me this was the easiest prediction of all. I don't think anyone could have too many debates about this one. Islam Makhachev, I've gone for him to be champion at the end of 2024. 2023 was a funny year for him. He was pretty inactive. He had the 2 fights against Volk. The first one made a lot of sense. Obviously Volk stepping up from featherweight. Brilliant fight, very tight fight, could have went either way. And then he was lined up to fight Charles Oliveira then, and then Oliveira obviously pulled out and Volk took the fight in short notice, and Islam done what he done, as we've previously mentioned. He hasn't currently got a fight lined up. I think there was potential of maybe fighting in UFC 300 if the dates aligned, and it looks like they could align, and then the Saudi card in March as well. So the Saudi card makes a bit more sense to me, because Islam has said that he doesn't want to train or fight during Ramadan, which is fair enough, and I think Ramadan goes from March until April, so there's potential that Islam could fight in the Saudi card in March, although we would be expecting an announcement any time now, pretty soon. It's before UFC 300, which is in April, and we've already got fight announcements for it. It does make sense to me for it to be on the Saudi Arabia card, apart from the fact that it's a fight night. Dana says it's going to be the biggest fight night he's ever done. Will he put a title fight on it? That's another question. It would be a bit weird, but Islam does seem like the sort of guy, it's his part of the world, Saudi Arabia. It seems like he would want to put on a show for them guys, and he would do a title fight on a fight night. Whether Dana's up for it or not, I'm not sure. Who will be his opponent? That's the main question. So obviously last year there was no contenders that really got a shot because of Oliveira falling out injured. I think the obvious fight to make again is Oliveira. That's probably the fight they will make. Is it one that I'm really excited to see again? I don't think so. I think I would be pretty confident that Islam will do what he done last time, take Charles down and submit him and sort of maul him. I don't think Charles Oliveira's wrestling is just quite good enough to compete with Islam. His jiu-jitsu's brilliant. Charles Oliveira, very, very dangerous off his back. His striking is also to a good level. It's not the best in the division, but it's to a good level. But I think Islam takes him down and submits him the same as last time. Justin Gaethje is another man who may be in with a shout of getting the matchup. Justin Gaethje has looked like a reformed fighter. Obviously, prior to his last 3 fights, he's called the highlight reel for a reason. You know, he comes in and he stands and bangs, and he's had fight of the year contenders. He's won fight of the year before. He's always a joy to watch. But the downside of fighting like this, it's exciting for the fans, but the downside is you leave yourself open. You leave yourself open to shots, whereas if you were coming in more technical and calculated, you probably wouldn't get hit with some of the shots that he was hit with back then. So, but his last 3 fights, he's looked really, really good. Justin Gaethje against Rafael Fiziev, I would say that was the one that surprised me the most. I actually picked Fiziev in this fight. Fiziev's a great kickboxer. His kickboxing is on a different level, and Justin Gaethje was able to stand and bang and match him and beat him on the feet in that fight. Another great fight, but he looked more calculated. He didn't come out just standing and banging just as much as what he normally does. He looked more calculated with what he was throwing, mixing it up between the legs and the head and the body. So he's looked really, really good, and I think he's warranted a 3rd title shot here. I don't think any Charles or Gaethje beat Islam, but I think Gaethje's got the better chance because styles make fights. Gaethje's wrestling is something which is massively overlooked. He grew up doing American wrestling. That's how he actually got into MMA. He comes from a wrestling background. He's trained with Kamaru Usman and Trevor Whitman now for some years, which will obviously bring his wrestling on. But he never shows it. He just likes standing in the middle of the ring and banging. And fair enough. But I think against Islam, he would have to show his wrestling. I think his takedown defense would be massive. I do think he's got it. He could stuff the takedowns of Islam Makhachev, whereas I don't think Oliveira could. And on the feet, I have to fancy Gaethje against Makhachev, especially after watching his last 2 or 3 fights, which have been standing on the feet, and he's looked really, really good. As I said before, like a reformed fighter, very calculated, very technical with his striking, which is something that we didn't see from him before. Another man who's up and coming is Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan, he's been massively overlooked at this division, I think. He came in and had his debut on the 20th of April 2019, my favourite day of the year. But he came in and had his debut against Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev beaten in a unanimous decision, but it was a close enough fight. It wasn't a comfortable win. Islam Makhachev was right to get the win, of course. But Arman Tsarukyan, he gave Islam Makhachev one of the hardest fights that he's had yet. Bar the Volkanovski first fight, I would say it's probably the second hardest fight he's had in the UFC. Since then, he's went on and he's won every fight apart from against Gamrot, which was a great fight against Gamrot. It was back and forth. Loads of people, including myself, has said that they think Gamrot won it, and I 100% agree with. That Arman won it, and I 100% agree with that. But it was a tight fight. It could have went either way. But bar that one fight against Gamrot, Tsarukyan has went on a great run ever since been defeated by Islam Makhachev, and I think he also has a real good shout for a title fight. So how would I like to see this division playing out? Islam Makhachev in Saudi Arabia in March against Charles Oliveira. A great matchup. And then UFC 300, a fight I would love to see. Justin Gaethje against Arman Tsarukyan. That's another great matchup. That could be a title eliminator. The winner of Gaethje and Tsarukyan fights the winner of Islam and Oliveira for the title come the end of the year. How do I see it playing out? I see Islam obviously beating Oliveira, and I see Arman Tsarukyan. I think I see him beating Justin Gaethje. I think I see him beating Justin Gaethje. I'll have to do a bit more looking into that one because it's going to be a very, very tight fight. But my early prediction is Arman Tsarukyan beats Gaethje. He fights Islam for the title come the end of the year and gets defeated, which means Islam ends the year 2024 as the champion, as he has done the past couple of years. So I think after this 2025, I think Islam, if it plays out this way, Islam will step up the welterweight. There won't be too many more challenges here for him at lightweight, so you can see him stepping up. If Leon Edwards is still a champ, that's a great match up there. There's some great fights at welterweight for him, so it's something I can definitely see him doing. I think the UFC will try and push it as well because they don't want a similar situation to which happened to Khabib. Chael Sonnen broke this down in a video last week, and he discusses how if UFC offered Khabib a title fight in the weight class up in welterweight, he might have stayed and he might have took it. And because they didn't do that, because they waited so long and they didn't do that, he was retired and he was long gone. So they might be keen to offer this to Islam a bit quicker than what they did. So it would not surprise me. Islam Makhachev, they finish the year lightweight champion and then move up to welterweight in 2025. So the next weight class we're going to look at is the welterweight division. I've backed Leon Edwards, the current champion, to remain champion throughout 2024. People keep doubting him. They keep doubting him and doubting him. I used to doubt him too. I doubted him the first Kamaru Usman fight, and I kind of doubted him for the second one as well. But now I've stopped doubting Leon Edwards. He's levels above what we know he is. I think he beat Colby Covington with ease. His last fight, don't get me wrong, it wasn't the most exciting fight, but there was a lot of water under the bridge. He needed to get the job done, and he done it with ease. So, why do you think Leon Edwards will remain champion this year? Leon Edwards is fighting Bilal Muhammad, we assume, in UFC 300. He's definitely fighting in 300. It has to be Bilal Muhammad. It's the only one that makes sense. It would be wrong for it not to be Bilal Muhammad. So, let's assume it is. Leon Edwards beats Bilal Muhammad in UFC 300. What happens to Bilal Muhammad then? Bilal Muhammad's struggling to get a title fight as it is when it's really, really deserved. Imagine when he loses one, he's going to slip down the rankings and he's not going to get the big fights. He's just not entertaining enough for the UFC to put him on these big fights, which I think is wrong. I think he's there on merit. He deserves the fights. But I don't know. He really seems to be frowned upon by the MMA community because of his boring style. But Leon Edwards beats Bilal UFC 300. Bilal disappears from the picture. Who does that leave us? That leaves us Shavkat Rakhmonov near the end of the year. So Leon Edwards coming off 300 with another title win. It has to be Shavkat after that. Shavkat, I can see him getting a fight in before then, but Shavkat at the end of the year, then they fight Leon Edwards for the title. Who wins this match? This is such a difficult matchup to call. Shavkat has looked really, really good. Obviously, last time out against Wonderboy, wasn't overly impressed with the first round because he didn't stand and bang. and strike with Wonderboy, but then after he comes out and says that he'd like a broken ankle or something mad wrong with his ankle, so it was like he'd beat Wonderboy that easy while having an ankle injury, and it made sense why he didn't strike with Wonderboy. It would have been nice to see him do it, but the injury obviously affected that. Why do I think Leon Edwards beat Shavkat? To be honest, I'm going off pure biasness. I love Leon Edwards. You know, I think he's an unbelievable fighter. He's an unbelievable guy. You know, I'm proud they watch him from the UK. I love backing UK fighters, so I have to back Leon Edwards. And I think, you know, his striking is brilliant. His wrestling has looked good. I don't think Shavkat's jiu-jitsu, you know, he's not the slickest jiu-jitsu guy. We've seen Leon up against two good wrestlers. We've seen him up against strikers, and he's won every time. So to me, there's no reason why he can't go on and beat Shavkat. It'll be his hardest fight by far so far, I think. But there's no reason why he can't go on and beat him, which is why I've picked him to be champion at the end of the year. An honourable mention in this weight class is Sean Brady. Sean Brady's 15-1, and he only lost once, and it was to Bilal Muhammad. Styles make fights, and I think this could be a difficult matchup at some point for Leon Edwards if he sticks around to have it. You know, Sean Brady's showed real good jiu-jitsu. He's really good off his back. Very, very, very dominant. His last fight out, Sean Brady's last fight out, Kevin Gastelum he had in his last fight. And, you know, it was very, very dominant. A great performance by Sean Brady. And I think he's maybe 1 or 2 wins away from getting a shot at the title. Do I think Leon Edwards will stick around? I do, because I think Islam Makhachev in 2025, as I mentioned when I was discussing the lightweight champion, I think Islam Makhachev, come 2025, if it all plays out, I think he'll step up to welterweight, and I think that's a fight Leon Edwards should stick around for. That's a big, big money fight, and you know, as champion against champion, if it happens, I'm already buzzing at even the thought of that one. So, a back UK man, slightly biased maybe. I know a lot of people's going to say Shavkat. Some people might even say Bilal, but I've went for Leon Edwards. I'm back in the UK man, and I think he's going to be champion at the end of 2024. So the next weight class we're going to look at is the middleweight division. Obviously, this is the division which caused the biggest upset in 2023, with Sean Strickland beating Adesanya for the title. Adesanya hasn't fought since. He put out a tweet not long after saying he'll be back in 2027 and he's taking a bit of time off, but we now know that he's looking to come back sooner, and it might be sooner than what we initially thought. It has been rumoured that he'll be at UFC 300. I'm not sure if that'll happen. It seems a bit soon, but he might fight after it. So the roadmap for Adesanya getting the belt, this is how I think the middleweight division will play out, or how I would like to see it play out, because I do like Adesanya. So I think Strickland will beat Dricus du Plessis in January this month at UFC 297. Yeah, 297. So I think Strickland beats DDP, and then I think Izzy will come back, perhaps 300 or summer, as I said, and I would like to see him fighting Chimaev. I have got Izzy to win this fight, and people's going to raise their eyebrows at this one, but I haven't been overly impressed with Chimaev. If we think of Chimaev's last 3 fights, we had Gilbert Burns, which we seen Gilbert Burns really put it on him, and it was, what a brilliant fight. Chimaev came through it, got the win, but it wasn't as convincing as what everyone was saying. Chimaev will smash everybody, but the only person he smashed in his last 3 fights is Kevin Holland, and Kevin Holland took that weight at late notice. You know, within days after Chimaev missed weight for his original fight against Nate Diaz. So yes, he smashed Kevin Holland. Can we really count it as a notable win, or a win that sort of raised the stock massively? I don't think so. And then we look at his last fight with Kamaru Usman. His first round looked absolutely brilliant against Usman. He did smash him, but then he ran out of steam. You know, there's people that think that fight was a draw, and I can completely see why. I think the first round, it was definitely a 10-8 round to me, but Usman really came into it. Maybe he aged the second and third round. If that fight was 5 rounds, if that was a championship fight, I don't see that how Chimaev could have won it. He was completely gassed out in the third round. So, to me, I think Adesanya will beat Chimaev. I don't think Chimaev is as good as what he thinks, and is as good as what everyone's saying. It could be proved wrong, but to me, that's the case. Moving swiftly on then we're starting to get into the big boys. We've got the light heavyweight division. I've put Alex Pereira for the champion at the end of 2024. This is a division that has been completely cursed. Obviously, last year we seen Yuri getting injured with the shoulder injury and vacating the title. We've seen Ankalaev and Jan Blachowicz fight for the title in a bore match. It was a draw, so the title stayed vacated. Jamal Hill and Glover then got the opportunity. Jamal Hill looked really, really good in that fight. I was really impressed with Jamal Hill. He became the first Contender Series champion. He did become the first Contender Series champion then. I was thinking O'Malley, but O'Malley was after. So Jamal Hill became the first champion, which we've seen come right through from the Contender Series, which was great to see. Obviously then he had to vacate the title due to the Achilles issue, which left the title to be vacated again for Pereira and Yuri Prochazka to fight for it on UFC 295, I think it was. It was a Tom Aspinall card. Pereira beat Yuri Prochazka. That was a tight matchup. I think it wasn't a lucky shot by Pereira or nothing like that, but there's just the sort of fight. You could have that fight 10 times and you would have 10 different outcomes, I think. Sometimes it's going to go into the latter round, sometimes one of them's going to catch each other. They've got completely different styles. Yuri's so unorthodox in the way he fights. Obviously Pereira, he holds that power, which we've seen. What way do I think this division will play out this year? To be honest, I think there's only two real contenders here for the belt, including the current champion. So we've got Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill. From what I've seen so far, I think these two will be at the top of the division. As a fight, I really can't wait to see, and I really hope we get to see it. Looking at the other contenders, we've got Yuri Prochazka, who's fighting Alexander Rakic in UFC 300. The winner of that may get a title shot at the end of the year. Rakic has done good work in that division too, so he would warrant a title shot. And if he beats Yuri Prochazka, which is it's not easy done at all. Yuri Prochazka is an animal. If he beats Yuri Prochazka, he fully deserves a title shot. To me, anyway, he definitely deserves a shot at Alex Pereira with the title. When is Jamal Hill back? I think that's the main question. Jamal Hill got injured in July of 2023. It was an Achilles tear, so he's meant to be out 8 to 12 months, they said, which, looking at it, would mean maybe summertime this year. So there's no reason why Alex Pereira can't fight Jamal Hill in the summer. This is how I see this division playing out. So Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill in the summer. We've got Yuri and Rakic on UFC 300. The winner of Yuri and Rakic in 300 is next in line for a title shot, and they will fight the winner of Pereira and Jamal Hill. This is how I would love to see it play out. We've got some great matchups if we do it this way. Coming towards the end of the year, we could have Pereira and Yuri Prochazka 2, or we could have Pereira and Rakic, or we could have Jamal Hill against any of the two of them. All brilliant matchups, great matchups. I would love to see them. As for Alex Pereira, there's talk about him stepping up to heavyweight. I don't think he should do it. He's already stepped up a division. How many times can he step up a division without actually defending the belt? I think it would be a bit of Dana White privilege if he was able to step up. And even there was talk of him fighting Tom Aspinall as well for the interim belt. I don't think he's warranted that either. How can he go from middleweight to suddenly become a heavyweight fighting for the interim title? Doesn't make sense to me. It would be cool to see, but I think he has to defend the light heavyweight title a few more times. That's where he belongs. He's not being a weight bully. He's not cutting a massive amount of weight. The way he was at middleweight, he fits in nicely at light heavyweight. He's very quick for light heavyweight, very powerful, and I think he should stay there because he's got the potential to be one of the best light heavyweights we've seen. Obviously apart from John Jones, that would be a big ask. But bar John Jones, he's got the potential to go on a real good run. I think if he can beat Jamal Hill this year, and maybe Yuri or Rakic again, he's certainly making a lot of noise, and if he stays as active as he's been, he could be right up there with the light heavyweight goats. So yeah, Alex Pereira, I hope he stays at light heavyweight, and I think if he does, he'll end 2024 as the light heavyweight champion. So next up, we move on to what, in my opinion, is the blue chip division in the UFC, the heavyweights. this was a pick I was kind of frustrating for me to do. I've went with John Jones for the champion, and it's not based on merit. It's based on business moves from the UFC. We've seen Tom Aspinall. I'm a massive Tom Aspinall fan, so this might be biased, but anyway, I'm going to go for it. I'm a massive Tom Aspinall fan. I've just discussed, right, put it this way, okay? So I've just discussed in the light heavyweight about how good fighters letting the belt go whenever they get injured. It's the right thing to do. It keeps the division moving, it keeps it entertaining, stops us having to have interns. I get sometimes it's not the case, but we've seen it in light heavyweight. You know, we've seen Yuri Prohaska do it, and we've seen Jamal Hill do it, and that division has now been able to move on and become a pretty competitive division, whereas before it was all stuck up because there was champions injured and stuff. The heavyweight division's turned into something similar. John Jones is going to be out for God knows how long, probably until the end of the year, and he's fighting Stipe Miocic when he comes back. We've got an interim belt. Tom Aspinall holds it. How many times do you see someone having to defend an interim belt, even when the main title holder will be back at some stage, and Tom Aspinall isn't going to be the first one they fighting, even though he's the interim champion? How many times have we seen this happen? I get John Jones is a legend of the sport. You know, he's the GOAT, in my opinion. He's the best to ever do it. At light heavyweight, he's had one heavyweight fight in what was stylistically the best matchup he could have against Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane is the most one-dimensional heavyweight that we've seen up around the top flight in the past few years. You know, it was obvious. And Gane, who's not even a wrestler, was able to out-wrestle him. Of course, John Jones was going to out-wrestle Cyril Gane. And for the next matchup, I'll ask you this question, right? Dana White is saying about how Stipe Miocic and John Jones is the fight everyone wants to see. The greatest heavyweight of all time against the greatest fighter of all time. Would you rather see that fight, or would you rather see Aspinall and Jones? Have a think about it. I think most people will say Aspinall and Jones. For Jones and Stipe, to me it's easy. Jones beats Stipe easy. Stipe's got old, he's slower. Jones seems like he was quick enough. You know, anytime we see him hitting pads and stuff, he still seems to have a bit of pace. To me, he beats Stipe easy. You know, John Jones is a complete freak of nature. He's the best to ever do it. He will beat Stipe, no problem. Mark my words. I would nearly put my house on John Jones beating Stipe easy. But what I won't put my house on is John Jones beating Aspinall. I think Aspinall's in with a really good shout in that fight. A natural heavyweight. He's got speed, great jiu-jitsu, great wrestling. He's got it all. He is a complete all-rounder. He moves like a welterweight. John Jones has never come up against this in his life. That is the fight they make, and it really, really bugs me that they're not doing it. Dana White won't have it at all. I don't think John Jones should be stripped of his title. You know, he's a big enough legend. He deserves to hold on to his title. You know, he doesn't have to give it up the way they did in the light heavyweight division, because it's John Jones. You know, he breaks the mould. He's not the normal fighter. He's not the normal champion. He's the best to ever do it. But if you're not going to give up your title, at least give Tom Aspinall, the interim champion, the next shot at it. Come on now, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. What I think we will see is John Jones, Stipe Miocic towards the end of the year. John Jones, Stipe Miocic towards the end of the year will fight for the heavyweight title. John Jones wins it. They both retire. La-di-da-di-da. It comes into the new year. I don't know if Aspinall will be upgraded to the champion. There maybe is a chance saying that Aspinall will end the year champion, but it'll be in technicalities. It will be because John Jones has retired, and then his interim title will get upgraded. So there is a way he might end 2024 champion, but I don't think he'll end 2024 champion by beating the current champ. I think he could beat the current champ, but that's the way the UFC is ordering it, and you know, I suppose it will be a good fight, Jones and Stipe. Don't get me wrong, I'm maybe shitting on it a wee bit too much, but I think Aspinall's the fight everyone wants to see. You know, everyone wants to see John Jones against the newcomer, the up-and-coming heavyweight. What an unbelievable story for John Jones' legacy if he beats Tom Aspinall. He's just wiped out. You know, Tom Aspinall beat Pavlovich, who is the up-and-coming breed of heavyweights, and he'll have wiped out that division by beating Tom Aspinall. So, I don't know. I think Jones is looking the wrong way, to be honest. I think they really cement his legacy. Cement it anyway. Cement it as a light heavyweight. Is it cement it as a heavyweight? No. and that's the long and short of it. To cement his legacy as a heavyweight, to me, he has to beat Tom Aspinall, the up and coming, the new breed of heavyweights that's about while John Jones is holding the title. It has to happen. I don't think it will happen, but fingers crossed. We can only dream. Another honourable mention that I put on is Almeida. Almeida looks really, really good. He had a brilliant year, one of the fighters of the year last year. He won 3 fights. Obviously his last fight against Derek Lewis, it was, I don't know, there was people shitting on that fight, but I think he looked very dominant. Derek Lewis he's been one of the best heavyweights around for the past sort of 5 years. And Almeida made it look easy. He wasn't able to submit him, he wasn't able to finish him, but he did take him down and dominate him for 5 rounds. So to me, that was enough. We don't always see fighters getting the finish. I'm sure he really wanted the finish, but Derek Lewis can be a hard boy to put away too. We've seen Derek Lewis when he's been mounted before and he just stands up. He wasn't able to do that against Almeida. Almeida was able to hold him down there, pin him down. So he won 3 fights last year. What's the next fight for Almeida? I think Pavlovich makes a lot of sense. Pavlovich obviously coming off the loss to Tom Aspinall. That's a fight that makes a lot of sense. It's a fight I would love to see. It will sort of give us a gauge of where Pavlovich is at and where Almeida's at as well. So it will be a good one to see they play out the division for the rest of the year. But again, the division's going to be held up until the latter end of the year because John Jones is out injured. So it's kind of a hard one to call, but I'll say John Jones, the heavyweight champion at the end of 2024. As much as it bugs me, I think that's what it'll be. 2025, don't get me wrong, Tom Aspinall is going to become the greatest heavyweight of all time, and honestly, I do believe that with all my heart. I'm not just being biased because I'm from the UK and I'm a big Aspinall fan. I do believe he will be the best heavyweight of all time, and he'll definitely end 2025 as champion. Mark my words, Tom Aspinall will definitely be champion come the end of 2025. So there we have it. That brings it to the end of the video. Thank you very much for sticking around for this long and listening to me ranting. If you disagree with me, if you've got any debates, stick them in the comments and I'll happily have a chat. I get some of these predictions are subjective, and I understand why you would go for other people more than my picks. But I would like to hear it, so drop a wee comment. If you enjoyed this content, make sure and like and subscribe and all the rest of it, and hit the bell so you'll get a notification when my next video goes live.